Can you really get the same cinematic film look from an iPhone to a $100 million budget movie like Batman, Dunkirk, or Dune? Hi, I'm Timothy and I've been shooting film photos for many years in my travels, but one thing I was never able to do is to replicate that rich grain and colors in my videos. Taking film photos with actual film has been made very accessible as there are photo labs to help you develop the film photos all over the world, and buying a film stock only costs around $20 per roll. But shooting video on film is a whole different story. If I want to shoot 35mm film, it could cost up to $150 to $400 per minute. That explains why movies shot in film can go up to hundreds of $1,000s. And so that just makes it impossible for me to shoot in actual film. I've even tried using Final Cut presets and tools for grain and colors, but it just doesn't come close to that cinematic film look. But that is until I found Dehancer, a film emulation software that created the perfect cinematic film look that I wanted. So let's go step by step on how I transform my boring footage from my iPhone to a cinematic masterpiece. First, you want to drag your footage to your timeline. Next, you want to go to your effects and scroll all the way down to the film emulation. Now that you have the settings on the right side of your screen, the first thing you want to do is to make sure whether your footage is filmed either on Apple log format or if it is shot on the normal contrast on your standard iPhone camera. And since my footage is shot straight from the camera app, I will select Rec 7.09. Selecting the film profile essentially gives you over 60 film look presets to choose from. My personal favorite is Prokudin Gorskiti 1906 Experimental, so we will select that. Now to the film profile. Dehancer says that with digital color grading workflow, print emulation of Kodak 2383 is often used as the last stage of processing. However, I just find that Kodak Enduric glossy paper is just able to retain those details by dialing down on the highlights. Next, by default, the film grain is enabled, and we will stick with the 35mm ISO 250. The settings really depends on how much grain you want in your footage. If you're shooting in low light settings, be sure to select a lower ISO or you'll have too much grain. And now here's the bread and butter of giving your footage that cinematic film-like vibe: halation and bloom. Halation is a reddish glow or halo you see around bright highlights in film. You can see a big difference with and without it enabled. Obviously, it looks especially nice when there's a sun in the background of your subject. Next, we enable bloom, which is a soft glow around highlights caused by light bleeding into surrounding areas. You can see that with halation and bloom enabled, it just makes the scene very dreamy and cinematic. You can also play around with the film damage, film breath, and gate weave, but I personally like to keep it pretty simple. And there you go. That's how you transform your footage straight from your iPhone to a cinematic film masterpiece. So if you want to get that perfect cinematic film look, I think Dehancer just hands down one of the best tools out there. There are just so many features baked within Dehancer that you can tell it is made by professionals that have put a lot of time and care into creating that perfect film cinematic look. The only call I would have is that when you're using Dehancer, it would be very GPU intensive. So when you're playing back that footage in real time while editing, it could be choppy and slow. Do know that Dehancer will benefit a lot from a high GPU computer, and so you have that, great. If you don't, do expect that there will be longer render times, but overall, if you have a good computer, you're able to render fast, or if you have good patience, then Dehancer would be a great tool for you. I've been taking a lot of film photos over my years with my point and shoot camera, and I can say that with Dehancer, it really matches the vibe, the grain, the colors that I shoot with an actual film camera, but on video. I would highly recommend Dehancer. If you want to use their products, please use my code Toronto during your checkout to get 10% off. And do know that I will get a commission of those sales. If you enjoyed this review of Dehancer, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one.